Unexpected events. The next day, after they had eaten lunch and the cows had settled for their afternoon rest, Vincy looked again and again at the mountains. Suddenly jumping up, he said, "It must be 2 o'clock. Yesterday as I came back the sun stood above the Felsenhorn. That was at 3 o'clock. In another hour it will be there again." "Yes, run off quickly, for the sooner you go, the sooner you will be back to tell me all about it," urged Stefali. When Vincy mounted the steps at Mrs. Troll's house, Alida came running to meet him and exclaimed, "You come just at the right time. They are all away and we will be alone. This is the time you should always come. Let us begin at once," she proposed energetically, and took a small sheet of music and began teaching rather hurriedly, for she did not wish to devote much time to the names of the notes. Vincy gave close attention and understood quickly, and they soon left the reading of music to study the keys. To make her teaching more vivid, Alida struck the key each time it was named. Vincy was lost in astonishment and asked suddenly, "But how is the music made?" "It is all printed in the book, we read it there and play it," explained Alida. "But someone made it first, didn't they?" asked Vincy timidly. "Don't you think if one only knew how, one could write down all the tunes one hears?" "That's not necessary, for there are plenty of pieces of music already," said Alida with a sigh as she glanced at the big book of exercises. Vincy also looked at the open book, but he gazed at it as if it were a marvel. "Now I'll play a short piece," continued Alida. "It is an easy one and you can soon learn it." Vincy listened and his eyes glowed with happiness. As she finished, the Black Forest clock struck 3 and jumping down from the stool she announced, "Now the lesson is over. Come again tomorrow," and Vincy held out his hand in farewell and then ran off. So matters continued for 3 days more. Vincy was such an apt pupil that his teacher was amazed at his progress. He rejoiced that he was sent to the pasture these days and not required to help his father in the stable and barn as sometimes happened, for now his thoughts were so entirely filled with his study of music that often he did not hear what was said to him. On the few occasions when his father needed him for little tasks, he would send him away with a shake of the head, saying, "Where is your head, boy?" The afternoon for the 4th lesson had come and he was so happy that he took 2 of the steps at a time and was halfway up when a harsh voice called out to him, "Hey, what's the matter? You bold boy, come down at once." "I want to go up to Alida," explained Vincy. "To Alida? You know no Alida and she does not know you," Mrs. Troll shouted savagely, for it was she who stood at the bottom of the stairs. "Come down this moment or I'll fetch you in a way you will not like." Vincy obeyed, but as he descended, he called out with all his might, "Alida, I cannot come, but you know I was here." "What's this you are calling out?" said Mrs. Troll roughly. "I see you want to fool me and make me believe you know the little girl upstairs whose name you have happened to hear. There is the door." But Alida had heard the voices and now came running down the stairs to say in a superior manner, "Why are you sending Vincy away? He wishes to see me." "Ah, the matter was arranged then," exclaimed Mrs. Troll, using quite a different tone. "Did Miss Landrat know he was coming?" "No, but I knew it," answered Alida haughtily. "Then we will tell Miss Landrat and everything will be settled," said Mrs. Troll scornfully. "The best thing for him to do now is to go where he belongs." That was Vincy's opinion too, and shaking hands with Alida, he went sadly away, for he thought all was over. But Alida was very angry that the woman had dared to send her friend away, and she called out furiously, "I'll tell my papa everything, and he'll not let Vincy be treated so," and flew up the stairs. As soon as Mrs. Troll saw the governess returning with Hugo, she reported what had happened in her absence. "It is certain the boy has been here before," she concluded in excitement. His coming today had been arranged, for he shot up the stairs as though it were his home, and Alida was waiting for him. Miss Landrat was horrified. How could she be so bold? To think of making an acquaintance with a cowherd of unknown family. "Perhaps it is the boy who found the red scarf," suggested Hugo, who had been listening quietly. "We saw him Sunday with his sister. He looked like a nice boy, and it surely would be all right for Alida to know him." Miss Landrat said no more, but turned and went upstairs, Hugo following. Throwing open the door, she asked, "Who was with you while we were away?" "Vincy," answered Alida. "If that is the name of the boy who was here, I would like to know what business brought him," the governess continued in growing anger. "He came for a piano lesson," was the reply. "Do you think I am joking with you, Alida?" said Miss Landrat, now quite furious. "No, I do not think so." "Then answer me sensibly," she exclaimed. "How did you come to ask him here? What did he want?" "A piano lesson, as if it were a matter of course." "But, tell me, Alida, who was to give him the lesson?" interrupted Hugo. "I was," she answered earnestly. Then Hugo burst out laughing and asked, "Didn't the idea of your giving him a piano lesson make him laugh?" "No, he was very attentive," said his sister. "That is enough," exclaimed the governess angrily. "Ask no more questions, Hugo. Alida must not think it funny to invent such stuff. I shall write her father immediately, but the first thing," and she hurried out of the room. Hugo now began his questions again, and to his great amusement heard that several lessons had already been given, that Vincy had learned a great deal, and that Alida wanted to have her father know how Mrs. Troll had treated him. Meanwhile Miss Landrat went to Mrs. Troll and instructed her to forbid Vincy entering her house if he ever came near again. That same evening Vincy's father passed Mrs. Troll's house as he cut across the fields to his home, and she caught sight of him as she stood in her garden. "Hey there, neighbor Lisa," she called. "I would like to tell you something." And when he came up, she added, "I think it would be better for your boy if he had something to do instead of running into other people's houses for mischief." "What do you mean, neighbor?" "I mean that your boy has been here a number of afternoons to visit the little girl upstairs, but her governess wants no more of it, and he should stay where he belongs." "I'll see he does. Goodbye," and Mr. Lisa went on his way. It was just supper time as he entered his house, and both children were already at the table, because the mother liked to have everything ready on her husband's arrival. As the meal progressed and he spoke no word, she looked inquiringly at him, but since it was evident he wished to be let alone, as soon as the supper tasks were finished, she sent the children off to bed.